Well, hi, my name is Natasha Dartigue, and I currently serve as the Deputy District Public Defender for Baltimore City. I am a public defender of over 25 years, and I've been serving the citizens of Baltimore in various roles. One of my passions has definitely been in terms of community outreach. I came across Innovation Works through my relationship with Jay, and I had the opportunity to meet Jay back in 2017 through the Leadership, which is a project that comes out of the Greater Baltimore Committee that joins leaders from both the public and private sector in various disciplines. So in terms of social enterprises, in terms of economics, in terms of health, we all come together through our passion and caring for Baltimore. At the time, Jay, I believe, worked for Baltimore Core, but he was just a force in the class. So when he was transitioning and he reached out to me and he was going into this program, Innovation Works, knowing Jay and the energy that he brings to anything, I felt like that was someplace I wanted to be. So I joined as a mentor, and I've loved it ever since. My background is mainly that of leadership, and through my passion for the people of Baltimore, I have that interesting perspective in terms of working in criminal defense. So, I see that side of Baltimore. I understand the intricacies of the problems that Baltimore faces. I understand the aspect that it starts from the levels of poverty. So when Jay connected with me, I thought that was a great opportunity to work with the people on the other end when they're more hopeful and doing things to build their community, as opposed to when I usually see them in my work when they're at their worst, when their lives have totally fallen apart, when essentially their communities, their family lives have totally blown up. So for me personally, that was an enriching opportunity to see people when they're more hopeful, as opposed to when I usually encounter them. So my role in Innovation Works as a mentor, I've really seen it as a bridge between the entrepreneurs and the other mentors. I had the opportunity to work in pairs with another mentor, and the mentors that I tend to work with have these really impressive resumes in the business world, affiliate, like top Fortune 500 companies, totally different background than I am. And my role, as I've seen it and has actually developed, has been really kind of like a bridge between the social entrepreneurs and the business leaders. As a leader in Baltimore City, I lead a staff of over 200. I have that aspect of in terms of how to use manpower, how to use resources, but then I also have that knowledge about what the community is all about. So very often I find that I'm translating in terms of numbers for the social entrepreneurs, but I'm also translating on the other end for the social entrepreneurs to the business individuals, because the business individuals tend to kind of just like, okay, what's the bottom line? What are the numbers? And helping the entrepreneurs translate that has really been my role, and I've really enjoyed that. There are often times when the entrepreneur may be really kind of sharing their passion for what they're doing, and it doesn't really translate into the numbers, and helping them sometimes kind of simplify that to something that is more easily quantifiable has been part of my role, and that will connect like the business person in terms of, okay, how does this look on paper in terms of your spreadsheets and things like that. So that's kind of been my niche in all of it, which is great because I had faith in Jay, because Jay's like, I need a mentor, and he tapped me, so I was humbled by him asking. But part of me was definitely like, okay, I don't have that type of business sense in terms of, kind of getting the individuals to kind of put together their business plan to have somebody invest. I didn't have that type of experience, but I believe that I could bring my experiences to the table, and it's really worked out. I think it's worked out well, and I've enjoyed the experience. So it's extremely important because of the different bases of knowledge and the different competencies that are basically needed to have a successful business. So when you bring these different individuals together, it's a great collaboration. Everybody brings their particular area of expertise and their particular strength. And that's what makes Innovation Works really dynamic, because you have people from different backgrounds, and you're able to apply whatever your specialty is to help build in terms of the community, but also to build the network of entrepreneurs. I really can't think of another place, and maybe they won't exist, I just don't know, where you have that such a rich pool of resources, which is really dynamic, because everyone has a special thing that they are an expert in, and you have that opportunity through this program to bring all those together. So I think it's great that if an entrepreneur identifies this is a particular area that they need help in, that the program is able to connect the person with that type of mentor. And sometimes it's on the business end, sometimes it's just kind of simplifying the idea. I also found that as an advocate, as a trial lawyer, a lot of what one does as a trial lawyer is really kind of selling your position. And I was able to help the entrepreneurs maybe kind of simplify what their idea was, so that they could be able to, really sell what it is that they were trying to do for their communities. Really also really tell them and hopefully teach them, help them build as to, how that you do that so that you can reach a broad range of people, right? You don't want to only be able to really speak to those who do what you do. You have to be able to speak to people that do different things. And how do you do that? For me, it's similar like when I'm trying to advocate a position to a jury, right? You have people that are from different backgrounds, and I'm trying to convince them as to why my point of view or my point is what they should go with. So similarly, that has been like a trick that I've helped the entrepreneurs in terms of really kind of simplifying their message and really being able to reach a broader range of people. The example that I think of was a pre-COVID example where I worked with Full Blast Steam. Full Blast Steam was an enterprise that essentially was seeking to bring STEM to the youth in the community in ways that usually you don't see STEM. Their concentration was really big in terms of robotics, those type of things. And they were really trying to bring those programs into the inner city schools. And it was awesome, because you had these two young black males pushing STEM in ways that were really, really cool. I guess the example I would think about was more so how they benefited me, as opposed to how maybe I benefited them, and I hope that the relationship was mutual. But the summer of 2019, they were having camps. They would do camps in West Baltimore. And that summer, I had a group of students. Each summer, I have students that come to work at the Public Defender's Office. And I was able to coordinate with them so that my students could essentially participate in their STEM program. And quite honestly, I remember when I went to kind of just stake out, okay, where's this camp? It was essentially in a rundown part of West Baltimore, and essentially it was someone's home, and I can't remember the name of the program that they worked with, but essentially they had converted the house to a place where the students could come. And my first impression was, honestly, it was like, yikes, where am I having these students come? Because essentially they're lost students, right? They're coming from all different parts of the country, not even really been to Baltimore, let alone been exposed to certain neighborhoods in Baltimore. And I remember afterwards, I went in and I saw what was set up. And then I decided, yes, I'm going to have my students come. And the stories, when the students came back, because essentially they interacted with the students who are high school students, and they told about the stories about how, first of all, they were like, we were not really helpful, maybe kind of like we were helpful in terms of getting the materials from one place to another, because what they were doing totally blew our mind. We had no idea what they were doing. We could not help them in terms of putting circuits together and things like that. So it was really, really great, number one, to have those students interact with my law students, but also for the law students to see inner city Black kids in a different way, especially as these young kids that were really into science and doing things that law students didn't even have an idea of. So that was a way in which we interacted. And, my students, I would say perhaps they were helpful in terms of having extra adults there to work with the students. But substantively, from the feedback that I get, I don't think substantively they were. But in terms of the interaction and hopefully learning that took place on both sides, that's one of the experiences that only through my contact with Innovation Works would have had the opportunity to have my students to be exposed to students in Baltimore City that I thought was extremely important, and especially important for the work that I do because of the fact we tend to see people at their lowest. So it was really important to see, especially young Black kids, doing science and being brilliant. So, I think you've heard it, and you hear it a great deal more now when they say representation matters. So it's really important for especially the entrepreneurs who are just trying to get a footing and trying to make it work, to have individuals that look like them who can speak to maybe some of the challenges that they may face, but also to be an example as to, okay, I see somebody who's a leader, I can be a leader, or I'm having certain challenges in certain spaces, is somebody that I can speak to in confidence and maybe kind of just share as to what I'm going through, and then hopefully maybe a strategy as to I can overcome and go to the next step. So I think it's extremely important for us to occupy all those spaces. We need to see people who are in those spaces. And it's definitely a challenge because there's a finite number. The reality is that there's a finite number of women of color, there's a finite number of men in color in certain leadership positions. And it really also goes to what their particular passion is. So I would say a strategy would be to kind of really just tap into what their particular passion is, and as a way to attract. Because I also believe in the adage that you make time for what is important to you. So yeah, we have a lot of things going on, but you make time for what you want to make time for. That's the reality of it, right? You shift this, you cancel that, and then all of a sudden you have the space of an hour or whatever for what you deem to be important in your life. One of the things that I say often about Baltimore in general is that we have just poor PR, poor branding. there are so many organizations that I discovered through Innovation Works, essentially individuals within the city on a grassroots level that are working to really improve the city in ways that you cannot even imagine. I think for me, especially in the work that I do, it really energizes me to be part of this community, right? Especially when you turn on the news or you read, either your online paper or your actual, paper. In a lot of ways, our leaders in Baltimore City are failing us. So it's really gives you hope that there are individuals on the ground, people in the community who basically are continuing to help themselves, but there are organizations like Innovation Works that exist to empower individuals. Through my work at the Public Defender's Office, that is like my mantra, that we should be in a position that we're not speaking over people, we're not speaking for people, but we're finding ways in which we can empower them so that they can be heroes in their own stories. And Innovation Works is definitely an example of an enterprise that exists in Baltimore that is doing just that. So I feel like if you truly care about Baltimore and you're looking for other ways to perhaps use your time and your talent, it's really an easy way. Because again, it's you bring what it is that you bring. So if it is leadership skills, that's what they ask you to bring. If it's your business skills, because you can really put a spreadsheet together, then that is what you bring. Because when you think about it, there's so many different aspects to a business, and these social entrepreneurs do not necessarily have the formal education in any of that. So whatever it is that you can share, I found to be beneficial, and they're just so really appreciative. I think that's the biggest thing when you interact with these with the social entrepreneurs, that they're so appreciative, and sometimes you're like, okay, what did I say? And it's the little things, and they're just like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's it. And I think, or sometimes just the fact that somebody else maybe shares the passion for something that they have, or somebody just gets it just to get it, is really encouraging to them. So I say that, don't discount that you may not have an MBA or whatever degree in business. Whatever, I would say, if Jay taps you, Jay knows what he's doing. So just say yes and help.